name's Megan Edwards of Focus Communications, and today we're getting another update from Eloro Resources, which trades on the TSX under the symbol ELO. And joining me again today is Eloro's Executive VP of Exploration, Dr. Bill Pearson. Bill, thank you so much for coming on this morning.
Oh, always a pleasure.
Congratulations on the successful definition drill program, which, as you announced earlier this week, has just been completed. Could you walk us through the latest results and perhaps summarize the target to date for those new to the story?
Absolutely, delighted to. So this is our opening picture here, and this is our big mountain, our Iska, and then later on, and we're going to talk about this area, Casiterita, which is our new target area. Obviously, the normal warning on forward-looking statements. So the big news from our recent drill release this week was our southernmost holes, 50, DSB 51, 52. And all three of these holes had over 100-meter core lengths. Very nice grades, as you can see, in terms of up to 123 grams silver equivalent. Interestingly, very, very strong in zinc plus silver and lead. And the significance of this is quite profound in terms of when you look at the overall picture here. Here's the drill plan of Santa Barbara. This purple body in the middle is what we call the Iska porphyry. This is part of the porphyry epithermal complex that brought in all the silver, zinc, and lead mineralization, which has been superimposed on a very large original tin porphyry complex. So you can see the yellow highlighted holes down here on the south end, which are those three holes I mentioned. So our overall strike length here of our zone now is something like 1,100 meters. And in fact, when I was looking at the model yesterday, it's probably more closer to 1,200. The other thing is you'll notice that we've widened out our high-grade zone area, which is defined on our greater than 90 gram silver equivalent envelope. It's now, we've pushed it out to about 800 meters. And all of this is happening down in the valley of the caldera, which means that this will all come into our potential open pittable resort. So this is going to be a major addition to our mineral resource estimate that we're currently working on to complete. It also shows you too, I mean, we're drilling at 100-meter spacings here. It's very aggressive step outs, but we haven't missed the system on any of these holes. It's showing you that this whole mineralized system is enormous. The other thing is, as in the future, as we drill this in, fill this in, it very, very likely you will see the grade go up because you're never going to miss the system. But as we tighten up the drilling, you'll see better definition. So this is a big, big leap forward in terms of our potential open pittable resource here. Obviously, that has major implications for the future economics. And, you know, we put out this model here in January, which showed the increase in our model from September. You can see the red body up here, which is Santa Barbara. It looks like kind of a cherry on top of this huge magnetic anomaly, which we think is very likely the tin porphyry. Well, I can tell you we've just been updating our model in April, and this is expanded even further. And we're just doing an update on our Verify presentation, and you'll see this. So this is something that we've been able to consistently do since we started this program, all our drilling has been expanding, extending, and filling in this remarkable deposit. But it still remains open along strike, especially the south and the west. So we were very, very pleased with these results. They'll certainly have a major positive impact. And one of the key things that I pointed out on previous occasions is the reason we had a good feeling that this would go right across the valley. As you can see, our conductivity model goes right across. I'm standing on Santa Barbara here, looking south. There's Domo San Juan on the left, Porco on the right. You can see a number of the drill collars down there. The geophysics has been a tremendous predictor of where this mineralization goes. So we really have this down to an art in terms of understanding where this zone is going and how to define it. But as they say, we still haven't defined the limits of this. It's still going strong.
So earlier this month, you provided us with an update on the preliminary metallurgical test work, which included a long section of your tin-copper ratio. Can you discuss the interpretation of this and the implications for the Casiterita target?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I want to mention firstly is that we have Mike Hollywell has come on board as Eloro senior metallurgist strategist. Mike is one of the top tin metallurgists in the world, lives in Cornwall, and he's got an enormous amount of experience in tin. He's doing all the metallurgy for Cornish Metals, who are reactivating South Crofty. And of course, Cornwall is the original heart of tin country. So we've been working quite closely with Mike, and what we're doing here is this tin porphyry, as I'll show you shortly, is very extensive, and it has several different styles of tin mineralization in it. So what this is doing is essentially showing you what we call geometallurgical domains. So in other words, what I mean by that is on my end, the geological end, I'm developing a picture from our mineralogical, our geochemical studies, our petrographic studies of consistent geological domains, which also are consistent metallurgically. And then, of course, Mike is working on optimizing the metallurgical recovery. So we tie all that together. It gives us a model to predict what the recovery will likely be in these zones. So what this drawing shows you is you'll see this tin copper ratio here. So when the tin copper ratio is high, that's where you have cassiterite. Cassiterite is a tin oxide. And that's what you see. The more cassiterite, the better. The higher grade it is normally coarser, and that means you get very, very good recovery. We have some intersections, for example, in DSB 33, where we had 3% tin over 9 meters. So those are lovely intersections. So you can see most of this drawing here is green, which means that this core of the system here is predominantly cassiterite, which is good. Now, as we look down, as the copper increases, and you can see the sort of pink and reddish zones, and you can see this reddish zone around the margin. That's very typical of Bolivian tin deposits. You get copper at the top and on the periphery of the tin deposits. If you go back to historic Cornwall started out as copper mine. And as they worked down the way, suddenly the copper disappeared, and then they found tin. And that's a pretty universal characteristic of these tin systems. What we're doing at the moment here is, so when you're when you're along the edge of the copper zone near the tin zone, you end up with a mineral called stannite. And stannite is a copper tin sulfide. And it's also something where if your tin is locked up in stannite, you're not going to get any recovery. And right now I'm refining the distribution of the stannite zones, and they're generally fairly limited around this edge. The interesting thing though, okay, you may lose on tin when you have stannite, but we find that these stannite zones are actually quite enriched in gold and silver. So we might lose on one side, but we're going to gain on the other. The other thing that comes into play here is there's quite intense oxidation near surface at Santa Barbara. And that's the reason why this was never found 500 years ago, because when you sample things at surface, you don't get anything. Anyway, so when stannite is oxidized, what happens? Well, the sulfur leaches out, the copper leaves, but the tin ends up forming another form of cassiterite, which is wood tin. And wood tin is a low temperature form of cassiterite. The main bulk of the green you see here has formed very deep in the Earth's crust at much higher temperatures. So in terms of understanding the distribution of this, we're very close to nailing these geomet zones down. Mike is supervising the last metallurgical tests, so we'll be able to come up with a very good model that will feed into the MRE. When we look at the silver, zinc, lead metallurgy, that's very straightforward. And again, remember that that is part of the later porphyry epithermal system that has been superimposed on this big tin system. And of course, the recoveries there's still room to optimize them, but they're very, very good recoveries, and plus 80%. So there's no issues there. So that's basically what this map is showing. One of the other interesting things I'm doing, which is helping us, we have our geologic AI scanner down there. We're actually working with the team in Calgary to run their AI using this tin copper ratio and our mineralogical data to build an AI model that will predict where this is. So all of this is coming together quite rapidly and will be integrated into our MRE.
Okay. So I know you've been drilling at Casiterita. Can you discuss the target and exploration to date in this area?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a magnetic analytical signal map here. You can see the pinky red areas. You can see how they go all the way around here. And we've drawn a black dashed line around what we think is the full extent of this remarkable tin porphyry system here. And you can see that this is a massive scale, 5 kilometers by 3 kilometers. And if you remember the last map where I showed you the acidic porphyry in the middle there, it's quite low magnetically. That's because the acidic porphyry is very, very low magnetic. So it gives you a sense of relative scale. I mean, that acidic porphyry is a big body, probably 1.2 kilometers by 800 meters across, but it's kind of dwarfed by the size of this massive potential tin porphyry. So down here in the southwest area here, this is where Casiterita is. You can see the location map up there. Casiterita is the red property in the red that ties on to our main Porvenir concession. You can see those black dots in here. Those are artisanal workings. And there was quite a bit of artisanal mining in the early 60s. They produced some 60 odd tons of high-grade cassiterite concentrate, running about 50% tin. That's pretty typical of what you get in artisanal workings from mining cassiterite veins using jigs and tables. And you can see how they're spread around throughout the property. So we're we've done about 3,300 meters of drilling here. Assay results are pending, but when we go look at the geology here on the next slide, you can see why we believe that tin porphyry is down here. You can see on the right here, you can see Santa Barbara. This is a long section, as you can see, north-south long section going right down this property. And you can see I've put in the outline of the high-grade zone in Santa Barbara. And you can see how the surface here is green. It's all oxidized and leached. But you can see the red and pinks here and purples, how this goes. There's these faults that downdrop things a little bit. But you can see, we know that the tin is on the west side and below Santa Barbara. And you can see why we believe it continues on down here. One of the advantages of Casiterita is we don't have a kilometer thick mountain on top. So where I have to drill a kilometer hole in Santa Barbara to get down into the tin zone below the silver zinc lead deposit, down in Casiterita, we think we're much closer. These are a couple of pictures that the Porco added, and which is basically partway down the hill here, which had very high tin values, 0.66 tin over 103 meters. And if you look at our geophysics here, this is the conductivity model. The model up in Santa Barbara is from our borehole data. This down in the bottom, the section AB is from surface IP, and you can see what a remarkable conductor here. So there's one heck of a mineralized system here, and that's what we're currently drilling. So stay tuned on this. This tin porphyry system is potentially huge.
Before we let you go, is there anything else you'd like to leave our listeners with in terms of the next steps at Eloro?
Well, everyone, of course, is waiting for the MRE, and there's no one who wants to get it done more than I do. But obviously, we have to make sure that the technical work is done. We're working very closely with Mike on that. Work's moving along. Having Mike Hollywell on board guiding the metallurgy is a huge plus. And these recent drill results obviously have a big impact on our potential open pits. So Micon is currently integrating those into it, and we will need to rerun our pit model. So that's one of the next big events. Stay tuned for results on Casiterita. I'm convinced that we have the potential for 2 world-class deposits here at Iska. I think we can safely say we have one in the bank in Santa Barbara, which is a huge silver, tin, zinc, lead polymetallic deposit. In fact, the bulk of it will probably end up being silver, zinc, and lead with all this tremendous extension in our recent drilling. But having said that, the tin is very predominant on the west side of Santa Barbara. It clearly needs more drilling. And if our inference is correct that it's down in Casiterita, and there's lots of evidence to suggest that is the case, then we can have a property here that has 2 potential world-class deposits. A silver zinc lead deposit, which remember is probably 1,200 meters long by 800 meters wide and is mainly potentially open pitable. And then we have a tremendous potential for a massive tin deposit. The system is huge. That's not to say that it's going to be mineralized everywhere. We obviously have to find out where the potentially economic portions are, but all the indicators are that we will succeed. It's just a matter of time. So really very exciting times in Eloro. There will be more news coming out, and I'm very excited about where we are now, and looking forward very much to getting the MRE out and getting drill results for Casiterita.
Well, absolutely. And we look forward to having you back on soon with more exciting updates. Thank you so much for your time today, Bill.
Oh, my pleasure. Always good to talk to you.
Absolutely. Have a great day.